Can we share the schedules?
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Let's try one more time. Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah, you guys are all right. So, my name is Aafiya, as the Sheikh said. I want to ask you, how many of you heard about Afia? Raise your hand. Great. How many of you know where is Afia at? Okay. How many of you, when was the last event in Houston for Afia? Today? Is that what you? Okay. Okay. What does that tell us? There's a lot of work we have to do. Okay, inshallah. Who heard about war on terror? Raise your hand. Okay. Cool. So war on terror started after 9/11. George Bush started, and he decided he want to have that program so he can target what's so-called terrorists, quote unquote. But mainly he's targeting Muslim. Now, this is a global program that they started, and that include different things, which is torture, black sites, and result of these programs was the Holy Land found 5 and Aafiya Siddiqui. Now, they used to pay also, because they cannot do it on their own if they cannot reach a community, right, or a country. So what they do, they paid a lot of money, unfortunately, for some of the government and leaders, that they collaborate with them so they can hand them over innocent people. And this is what they did to Afia Siddiqui. They hand her over for $50K or, I don't know, $100K. And I want to say something about that. There's also local program. So this is a global, but we have also a local one, which goes under the war on terror. Have you guys heard of CVE? Counter Violence on Terror. Have you guys heard of that program? 1, 2, 3. This is actually local in U.S., where the government offer also grant for nonprofit, for masajid, where they do surveillance on the community programs and educational. Unfortunately, that they lead these kind of programs, and through these programs, also innocent individuals were put in prisons. SubhanAllah. Maria, would you like to add something on that, please?
Sure. So, assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Maya Kari, and I'm a local attorney actually. So, Sister Aafiya is coming from Dallas. I'm here from Houston, and this is my 7 minutes from here, and it's a pleasure to be here with you all. But I go to Dallas a lot because 4 hours from us, Afia is serving an 86-year sentence for crimes that she did not commit at FMC Carswell. And that is a federal medical center. What does that mean? That is a fancy term for a federal prison. It's a medical center because it's for women with heightened needs. Afia has heightened needs as a result of over 2 decades in U.S. custody and some of the most extreme form of psychological, physical, and sexual torture a person can endure. But it really does need to start with the war on terror, right? Because Afia's story is the story of the war on terror and what the war on terror did to Muslim communities locally and internationally. And to our knowledge, Afia is the only woman to have gone through the CIA's rendition to torture program. Now, rendition is a fancy legal term for kidnapping and moving you across state lines. So, like Sister Aafiya mentioned, Afia was, and would this be the best time to start telling her story, or should we kind of ease into?
Let's see first. No, not now.
Okay. So we're doing a little bit of a build-up. But so before we get into the facts of Afia's case, and I've been working on this case for over a year now with my co-counsel, Clyde Stafford Smith. He's worked in a lot of the Guantanamo cases and is like a veteran lawyer in this space. And to the best of our knowledge, again, Afia, one of the only women we know to have gone through the CIA's program in the aftermath of the war on terror. So just think about that somehow, what that means. And her children were with her when she was kidnapped. And where did the black sites come in for Afia's case? So black sites were these prisons that were set up all over the world by the CIA. Why do you set up a prison all over the world instead of on U.S. soil to go after so-called terrorists? Anybody have a guess?
You can apply the American law and then.
Perfect. So when you're on U.S. soil, even if you're not an American citizen, constitutional rights attach, and then they're obligated to not torture you in a certain way. They're obligated to treat you in, arguably humane way. So they created these black sites with partner countries all over the world. And the one that I worked on when I was in law school was Bagram, and then the black sites that were all over Afghanistan. And that's really where my journey with Afia's case began when I was much, much younger. And one of the most compelling things to understand about black sites is that these were not just sites operated by rogue agents. These were authorized by the highest officials of the land. They were created and authorized by the president, right? They were run by our foreign agencies. And there's never been any accountability, right? So it's something that we've all acknowledged. We all acknowledge that it's a war crime, that is a terrible mistake, a blemish, and the past of America's conscience, et cetera, et cetera. But has anybody ever been held accountable in an international or local tribunal for having operated these black sites where countless men and at least one woman was tortured? So that's something that I want you guys to all reflect on, particularly in this moment, right? Because it's not the distant past. I was in high school when this happened. There's those of us who remember this vividly. And then for our youngsters, this might sound like history to you, but it's really not, because there's a through line that I want you to think about when we talk about some of my current clients. For instance, a case that we just wrapped up yesterday actually involves a young man from Hebron, from the West Bank, who came on a valid green card, landed at Houston Airport last Saturday, and they disappeared him. They disappeared him into secondary. Who here has been to the secondary at Bush Airport? You guys know it's a waiting room with about 40 chairs and counters. They disappeared him there for 9 days. It's the first case we're seeing in the history of American law. This is an unprecedented case where somebody was made to sit there for 9 days, and they basically kept telling him, either willingly go back or we're going to put you in jail. For what crime? The crime of being Palestinian. So this might sound like foreign history to us. It might sound like a distant past, like a thing that happened in the past to somebody like Afia. No. It just looks different. It's just being done under a different administration, and it's just having different class of suspects.
So here, as the Sheikh said in the halaqa, إذا جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا, right? So when you hear about your sister that she's incarcerated and they call her all kind of names, subhanallah, and all she done, this sister, that she's like me and you, immigrant, that she came to this country. She finished her PhD. She finished her in neuroscience, and she was volunteering. They even invite her in Houston to speak about the women's rights in Islam in 1991. And if you guys have internet, inshallah, we can watch this. I want to show you in here where she graduated. This is she were volunteering in a senior center. These kids are not her kids in the picture. This is an orphan kids where she was volunteering, she helping refugees. Not only that, but she was also speaking about Palestine. And her judge, the one he sent her for 86, he was a Zionist. And when we were working on the Wikipedia, subhanAllah, some of the IT folks, they were telling us all the misinformation coming from Zionist institution in here. Pro-Israeli organization. So when the Sheikh, he said, verify, one, about the news, not only that, I would say verify, search the resources, that's very important, especially for an organization. And I'm going to mention that, inshallah, that a lot of interfaith happening, and we don't even look who we are partnering with. And unfortunately, under the so-called interfaith, we actually end up with a Zionist organization and putting picture and giving them platform and access to our community. These the one they call Sister Afia terrorists. These the one they oppress our brother and sister, whether in here or over there. And on the side of that, I'm just going to say a small story as a Palestinian for me, that it's not an excuse for anyone to say, wallahi, his situation, that's why he sold his brother and sister or took the money. That's not an excuse. I'm going to say a small story for me as a Palestinian because I see Afia like Palestine. Tortured, raped, neglected, and nobody asked about her or do anything about her, and she's in our backyard. Now, my grandfather, I came from Jerusalem. My grandfather, he lived 120 years. He was from the Thuwar, the revolutionary. So he fought actually the British before even Israel existed at that time. Now, they came to him many times, the Israeli occupation. They want to buy his house. They offer him $1 million. First, they tortured him, put my uncles in prisons. They did not leave anything they didn't do. He refused. Then they offered him millions of dollars. He declined. The last offer he got, open check. They say, here's a check. Write any number you want. And we agree for it. My grandfather, he said, okay, I'll accept in one condition. You have to have every Muslim in every country to sign this document. That they okay for me to sell my house and then come and take my house for free. Why? Because when they see the problem in the oppression, they see Palestine as a Muslim cause. They don't see it as an Arab. When I see Afia, I don't see this as a Pakistan cause. I see this as a Muslim. I see this as me. This is my mother. When we were in Palestine, when something happened in Sudan, they say, what can we do? I have never heard of them saying, wallahi, we have enough, we have the occupation. Why do you want to worry about what happened in Sudan or Kashmir? No, we always worried that one body, that prophet, that implemented that hadith. Subhanallah. I just said that on the side, that I'm telling you, it's not excuse, brother and sister, and may Allah forgive our shortcoming. So this is where she did her, that's where I think Isna or Ikna invited her in here in Houston. There was a big convention, and it's not okay. She's also a mother of 3 children, Ahmed, Maryam, and Sulaiman. Inshallah, after we listen to her, just part of it about how she speaks, just listen to her voice to see how she sounds like, for me when I learn about her story, I want to just hear how she speaks, And that could be me, by the way. That could be you. That could be anyone. Like I'm talking right now, God knows, they're coming after all of us. And the way we react to these kind of cases, gonna set up the standards, brother and sister, for our community and for this institution, this is government, or this system. Inshallah. So should I just press play or right? Let's see. Okay. Allah, Bismillah. Always please. No, it's not. You have to click.
At this time, I'd like to call upon Sister Aafiya Siddiqui. Sister Aafiya is going to be a sophomore at MIT. Inshallah, she's doing her major in genetics, and she'll be leaving day after tomorrow. Sister Aafiya is going to be involved in MSA at MIT, and she's already the Dawah coordinator, and she's already started work. Alhamdulillah. Please, Sister Afia.
spent Eid with Afia. She's not well mentally, fully, but she still has the same spirit, and seeing her like this is always a little bit emotional for me. She's in her 50s now. She's endured something that no person, no woman should ever have to endure. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what happened. I apologize in advance, it's a little bit graphic, and I know that there's some kids in the audience, including my own. So Afia is not an American. She was here on a student visa, and she was frankly brilliant. She still is brilliant. One of the smartest people that I've met, and she started off at the University of Houston. She was here for 2 years. Sheikh Yasser Badi actually remembers asking her for directions to the parking lot.
He was also in audience.
He was in the audience there? Okay. So after University of Houston, 2 years, she transfers to MIT. And then after that, she does her PhD in neuroscience at Brandeis, and the focus of the PhD was on education, how to learn something through imitation. And this is important because one of the things the CIA got wrong and why she ended up on their radar was because they got completely wrong what she studied. And we know this because we have one of our witnesses on the case is a CIA agent who told us that they thought that she was somebody who was an expert chemist, physicist, who was capable of making bombs and whatnot. So they got the basics wrong. So that's how she kind of comes on their radar. And so now it's 2003. There's several things that have happened that lead Afia to be of interest to them. One of them being notably that she was very vocal. And she wasn't a very political person in that she was rallying against the U.S. government. I think I'm much more political than Afia ever was. That's the U.S. government. She was actually a fan of the U.S. government. Some of the things that the U.S. was doing, what she was vocal against was the genocide in Bosnia. But again, that's not a crime because Bill Clinton's also vocal against the Bosnian genocide, right? So Afia's living her life. She was in an abusive marriage. She still has a scar to show from it, from where her ex-husband threw a baby bottle at her head. He was also very abusive towards the children. So she got divorced. She returned to Pakistan, and the goal was to use her PhD to improve Pakistan's education system. So she's going from her home in Karachi in a car to the airport, Karachi airport, with the intention of going to Islamabad to meet with the education minister, when men surround her car, and they take Ahmed, the 6-year-old at the time, and they put him they kidnapped him, snatched him from the mother, put him in a prison, where he remained for the next 5 years in Pakistan. He was found as a result of the sister, Afia's sister, working with the Red Cross to find him. They take Mariam, who was 3 years old at the time, and they forcibly adopted her into a white Christian family. Likely, we haven't found the family, but we believe that it was likely one of the families working there with the CIA at the time in Afghanistan. Baby Solomon was 6 months old at the time. We believe he was likely killed during this kidnapping encounter. We haven't been able to find him. Afia herself was renditioned, again, that fancy legal word for kidnapping somebody across state lines, and she was put into various black sites in Afghanistan, most notably Bagram prison. Please look it up, understand the history of Bagram and what went on there. To our knowledge, she was one of several women there, but at one point, what these women endured is horrifying. At one point, we have reports where Afia's explained to us that the guards would come in to rape them, and they would form a ring. And just at one point, it took them, and one of the men who came in to rape them just took them down. And after that point, the women were all separated because they kind of ganged up against the men. And we have scores of witnesses who were also renditioned to torture. Scores of witnesses who were at Bagram at this time, men who remember seeing Afia, who remember hearing her screams. And they have come forward now, they're part of the case, they're witnesses for the case, they remember seeing her being taken to showers, they remember hearing her screams. Keep in mind that Afia is not just brilliant academically, she's memorized the entirety of the Quran. Till this day when I meet her, she can quote verses of the Quran to me, she can speak on theology, she can speak on the subject matter of her PhD, but her mind is still trapped in 2003 when she was separated from her children and disappeared. So her references, like when we talk about Imran Khan, who's the former Prime Minister of Pakistan, he's still a cricketer, and she loves to talk about Allama Iqbal's poetry, and she talks about Nair Noor, who's a poet and musician from my mother's era. So she's still frozen in time, but the mind, the brilliance is still there. So Afia spent 5 years in American custody, and after that they realized she was of no importance, no value. She was not some high-level operative, no agent, no terrorist, nothing important. She was just a woman that they had accidentally, on bad intelligence, kidnapped. They would have just released her and that would have been the end of it, but the problem is back home in Pakistan, she had become a sensation, right? She's called the daughter of Pakistan. Till this day, most Pakistanis know of Afia Siddiqui. They might not know the details of the case I'm sharing with you today because that's something we've been covering in the last 2 years, but they know Afia to some extent. And they care deeply for her. So for Pakistanis, for the Pakistani government, and the ISI had a huge role in it, that's the Pakistani intelligence agency, for the ISI to just say, oh, our bad, we snatched this woman off the streets, likely killed her youngest, and they sent one child to a prison and forcibly adopted the other child. Our bad, she's back, wouldn't work. So the plan was to just have her assassinated, and that would have worked because she was surrounded by a bunch of men upon release from prison who were supposed to take her out. This would have worked, except a very brave tailor stood in the way of Afia and the guns. How do we know this minute detail? We found a tailor. He's in Ghazni province, he remembers this vividly, he's going to be one of the sort of star witnesses in the case. At that point, Afia was apprehended, taken to the Afghani National Police Headquarters. Her only crime at this point, mind you, there's no intelligence on any sort of terrorist activities. Her only crime is that she's in Afghanistan, this is the year 2008, without a visa. And they're trying to figure out who is this woman, why is she here, what is she doing. When the Americans show up, because, she's on the loose and they need to talk to her, they show up, they go into her room, she's behind a yellow curtain, and she looks around, she's unarmed, she's unrestrained, and she spooks one of the soldiers who yells, she's on the loose, and shoots her. So now she's been shot in the abdomen, she almost dies, they patch her up. After 2 weeks, they fly her out to the Southern District of New York. And there they have one of the biggest sham trials, and I encourage everybody to look up the court proceedings and read the case because it's all public documents, and as Afia mentioned, the Judge Berman, a raging Zionist, who's still alive, and we'll hear the motion that we're filing, inshallah, given this month on our case. He sentenced her to 86 years in prison. Not because they found any conclusive evidence linking her to any terrorism or anything illegal. It was for the crime of attempted murder of a U.S. official. Now, attempted murder will get you 15 years, 14 years. Why did Afia get 86 years? That's a death sentence, right? It's because they added 3 terrorism enhancements to her sentence. So it bumped it up from what would have been, an ordinary sentence of somebody who attempted to murder somebody. Which even if she had attempted to murder somebody, it's self-defense because she was in a situation where she had been kidnapped. So let's just say that she did grab a gun, attempt to shoot her way out of that, which she was like less than 100 pounds at this point after 5 years in CIA captivity. She did not do that. The forensics disproved that too. So 86-year sentence. The legal team that defended Afia, now this is relevant because they were paid for by the government of Pakistan. The government of Pakistan, why are they paying? Because she's a Pakistani citizen. She's not American. She's been tried on American soil. So the government of Pakistan has an interest, but it's a double interest, right? Because they have been the ones to sell her to the Americans in the first place. So they paid $3 million in legal fees, and one of the lawyers in the previous case bragged to me that he bought his first Lamborghini for representing Afia. So subhanAllah, he put a woman away for 86 years and got his first Lamborghini, and I do hope he enjoys that ride. Here we are, right? So it's been over 2 decades. Afia's lost at every level of appeal because Afghanistan was a war zone. It was not possible to go back there and do the sort of investigative fact-finding that you need to do in a case like this. But my colleague, Clyde, who's represented half of the government of Afghanistan now, because he represents a lot of Guantanamo folks who returned to Afghanistan and now make up the government there, he has access that most others do not in this world. And that is how I know a lot of stuff that I'm today sharing with you, and that is how, inshallah, the public will come to know about it sometime this summer when we fill out our motion for compassionate release, which is going to be a 20,000-word document as it stands right now, on Afia's story, on what really happened before the same judge who's locked this woman up for death. And he now has a chance to do the right thing. And he's old, he's kind of like nearing the end of days, and maybe he'll have it and start to do the right thing. That sometimes happens with judges. While investigating the case, we uncovered a whole host of other issues. And that is what's happening at FMC Carswell, this prison that's 4 hours away from all this. And I really want everybody to think about this tonight, the fact that we're sitting here comfortable, alhamdulillah, and what can be happening to people who are in the most vulnerable position of their life. To be in prison, you are at the mercy of prison guards. You have now fallen off the grid, and you are in a black hole. And we've checked the logbook, Clem and I. We go visit her almost every 6 weeks or so. And every time we look at the logbook, there's just no lawyers visiting this facility, right? Lawyers are doing possibly Zoom calls and phone calls with their clients. I'm not saying that these prisoners are not represented, but lawyers are just not getting into these facilities because they're by design built very far out of cities. They're hard to get to, and that means that there's this sort of like black hole of injustice that is just going unchecked. And we uncovered that FMC Carswell has a rape problem. 12 prison guards, including the Christian.
Before that, sorry to cut you off. Before that, I want to show them. Can you please fix I want to show her the witness, Bargam, that because the CIA, the U.S. denied for 5 years they know anything about her.
Sure. Yeah.
So we just want to watch, inshallah, this, and then we'll continue.
What?
I cannot go to the next one, next slide. So we got this. Okay, so this is her actually, after they tortured her. And she went through all of this. Can you please, play the video, please? من فضلك. Click on it. Yeah, this is a video. No, it's not. طيب, can you go هلا? Do you have internet? Can you go DFW Free Afia on YouTube very quick? Let's see how fast can you type, brother.
DFW Free Afia.
So let me just tell them about the children.
What's the name of it? What's the name? One more time. Okay, alhamdulillah. So just to conclude, inshallah, or I know because there's a lot of talk, right? So she came here as an immigrant, better life, graduate. Yes, it should. Yep, that's it. If you don't speak Urdu, you may need to read.
लड़की है, मैं इसको देख नहीं सकता हूँ, लेकिन उसकी आवाज़ चिल्लाती थी, बच्चे का नाम से चिल्लाती थी, उससे बात नहीं करती और बस चिल्लाती थी, रोती थी, पूरे रात पूरे दिन रोती थी, बस आप सुनी वो रो गई, बाथरूम ले जाते हैं, ऐसा बाथरूम होता है अब, तो मैं कहता है कि इंसानियत में जब बाथरूम में ले जाते हैं ना, इधर दो बाथरूम है, इधर दो बाथरूम, चारों को बिठाते हैं एक साथ, आप मेरे सामने बैठकर बहाना कर सकते हैं, 4 घंटे तक बैठकर बहाना कर रहे इसमें आ जा सकती मर्दों के.
So for the one that did not understand, he's saying they use at night. This is one of the witness. He was in a black site. He hear a woman wailing, screaming, crying at night, calling the name for kids. They didn't know who she is, but there was that woman. They put her with men. She used the same, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, hammam, well, she used the same with men. Can you guys imagine that? Yani, subhanallah, may Allah forgive us that we are not doing anything about the sister. Yeah, inshallah, that's the start. That's the start, inshallah. Can we move to the next one? Let's see. Okay. So, in 2021, subhanallah, with the previous lawyer, she was attacked at FMC Carswell. It's a rape camp, basically. They raped 12 women by staff, by physician, by preacher. So not only her, but others, subhanallah.
Did you just say preacher?
Yeah,
Yes,
a
a Christian
preacher.
chaplain has been convicted of sexually abusing one of the inmates.
Not only that, there's an inmate in one case, subhanallah, that smashed a mug in her face, a hot coffee mug, in her face, fell off some of her teeth, and did very bad stuff to her. And instead, they actually punished the inmate that did that to her. They took her actually to solitary. Yeah, this is how bad we are talking about. I'm talking, and every day I'm thinking about her. I cannot fathom we leaving this sister for this years. I cannot. Subhanallah. So there is a similar case, I want to say, in Dublin prison in California. And with the legal team and advocate team, they were able to shut down the whole facility because they have a lot of rape for the inmates. See how the powerful legal team, advocate, hand to hand, working together, they actually, after years, they were able to shut down the facility because they asked them to audit. And this is what they say, khalas, okay, we're going to shut it down. Because they know what they're going to find out. SubhanAllah, this is our goal, inshallah, in here. To shut down, not just for Aafiya, but for other women as well. I want you to think that way, brother and sister. Imagine if Aafiya was a white lady with a blue eyes in a Muslim country being tortured and raped. Can you imagine what kind of titles and news we will get? Can you imagine that?
Can I say something here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in the history of everything since Islam came about, all the way up until Afia Siddiqui is the only female Muslim woman that was handed over by a Muslim government to a non-Muslim government. That's never happened before in 1400 years. So what the Pakistani government did in this case is beyond horrific. They broke this 1400 century of tradition of the Muslim ummah, of the Muslim, men, worldwide protecting our women. They handed over a Muslim woman to a non-Muslim government to be tortured and raped. That's never happened before. She's the one and only. So it's something to think about.
So you're going to talk about the legal, inshallah, what you guys do.
Yeah, so we sued the prison, Clive and I, and we'll do a Q&A, brother, in 10 minutes, if that's okay. We've sued the prison, we've sued them for the rape Afia's endured, we've sued them because they've denied access to Imam Suleiman. They have just again denied it because he has 3 million followers on social media. Once he gets in there, he's going to blow the cover on this whole thing, right? So let's be real about their reason for denying him. They say that we can bring in any other Imam but him. As a result, alhamdulillah, of our ongoing litigation, last time I was there just this most recent Eid. The good news is, some good news, that there's a PREA audit that's been announced because of the investigation we did. They're now doing an audit on a rape problem at Carswell. So, some incremental change, not good enough. We also filed for clemency. So there was 2 ways to go about getting Afia's freedom. Either you do a motion for compassionate release, which I sort of talked about, that 20,000-page Word document. But before that, we tried something called clemency, where the president just pardons somebody and says, okay, time served, you'll lay down, okay? It would have been a quick and easy way to get something done without having to name names of, like, this ISI officer, this CIA officer, Musharraf did this, and the CIA did this. And the Pakistani government, we forced them to show some support. There's a good judge in Islamabad. He ordered the government send a delegation. He ordered Nawaz Sharif, the current prime minister, to send a letter of support to Biden. Biden received the letter. A delegation came from Pakistan in December. We went with them to different congressional offices. We met with a lot of people. We managed to get through Senator Van Hollen and another contact of ours, the clemency petition for Afia on Biden's desk. So we got confirmation. We got a call saying Biden has it on his desk, and we were all sort of just praying. And 15 minutes before Biden left his office, among the many terrible, wrong, misguided things this man did in his time in office, he denied Afia's clemency petition. He said it would be just too politically unpopular to forgive Afia, who, if you look at her Wikipedia, is known as Lady Al Qaeda. So here we are. we're forced to go to court and sort of open up this Pandora's box of taking names, and that's fine. We'll do that. We know who did what, and it'll all be revealed, and that is a less fun for Afia. But in the meanwhile, we have to work on ending her suffering. Everything that Clive and I do is pro bono. We do not charge, so there's a link here to the legal fund if you'd like to donate to that. And also, the most important thing we can do right now, along with, of course, Dua and these sort of events, is to follow the case's trajectory, because there will come a time once that motion is filed that we're going to need to rally the public support in a way that is going to be significant, right? Because Afia's case is not just something that goes through the legal process, it also has to go through sort of the political and advocacy process. There's a parallel track that needs to happen here. What do I mean by that? So right now I'm on Mahmoud Khalil's legal team. We're suing the federal government in Colombia because Colombia disclosed all the documents that led to Mahmoud being snatched off the streets. And we've had a groundswell of support. Every single person in this room likely knows Khalil's name, right, and his story. It is important for us to draw attention to these cases. It not only humanizes the person, it makes sure that the case is not just like forgotten, and it also makes sure that when it comes time, people understand the complexities and can draw that sort of through line between this moment and the past moment. So it's no coincidence right now that we're seeing some of our most brilliant, brightest Muslim students being snatched off the street, right? Like Romaisa Oster wrote that op-ed and was snatched off the street, kidnapped by ICE thugs. There is that connection. We've now heard what Afia's story was like, what Afia's brilliance was like, that she was a young student. So I want us to kind of all think about what this moment means for political activists, for pro-Palestinian activists, and for students, and for all of us in general, and the threat to our safety because of a government that's kind of gone rogue and off the rails and is acting with impunity. And Afia's story really is symbolic of that. And then Houston needs a presence, right? I'm here in Houston. I'm always willing to come and meet with our community to talk about Afia, because Afia is not just a problem of the Pakistanis. She's not just the problem of the Pakistani government. She certainly is a problem that they need to contend with. She's a problem for the Ummah. So Afia had a dream that she shared with her sister and us, and she saw the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and she wept and she cried in her dream and asked, "Why am I still suffering? Why am I suffering? This is still ongoing." And he smiled and shook his head and said, "This is not your test. This is a test for the Ummah," right? And one of the things that there's a hadith I reflect on often, like the Prophet ﷺ tells us, feed the hungry, take care of the orphans, free the prisoners. Afia is innocent. The evidence of that is conclusive, right? There's no doubt about that in my mind, and I hope that others hearing that story feel the same way. And even if you still say, well, this doesn't add up and that doesn't add up, I want you to think about 86 years for attempted murder. Come back to that, right? I'm happy to always talk to you guys more about the case, and Fadia and her group out of Dallas do incredible work. I'm going to pass the mic to her to talk more about action items, and thank you again for your time tonight.
So, it's علم يتبعه عمل, صح? What's the point of the علم without عمل? صح يا شيخ? What's the point of the علم without عمل? So the Sahaba, at the time, they used what? To memorize, understand the 3 ayat, and practice it. And they will not move until they do these 3 things. Understand it, memorize it, and then practice it. And then they will move to the next one. So no rushing here. We're not in a rushing here. So I don't like to call myself activist. I'm an active Muslim, adware out of Islam, not nationalism or any other reason, for sake of Allah. So I don't care. Now we're going to activate our iman, I will say.
Bars.
So I want you to imagine, this is your sister, this is your mom, this is your wife. What will you do? She's innocent. What will you do? Where do you start? I want to hear from you. I'm not trying here to, no tricky question. I just want to hear your thoughts. What do you think? Where do you start? Your mom in the prison, she's being tortured. What will you do? Tell what? I can't hear you. Speak up. Okay, before the world, who should start? The house, right? The community, right? Our friend, because if they don't know about her, we cannot blame them. How are they gonna act about it? So we do that through educate, advocate, and act. I call it.
And we do that through hosting an event like this, which is very simple. You know, just you have your favorite sheikh. Sheikh Hamad is like, hey, can we have about Dr. Afia? I didn't hear any mention about her. And he's like, of course, what are you talking about? And here we are. We have just a table. See how easy it is? It's just the ilm al-amal, that's it. And then inshallah, if you say, you know what, I don't want to in the community, you can do on an individual level. We have a t-shirt outside. All you need to do is just wear it. Go to any gather and wear the t-shirt where it says, Free Aafiya Siddiqui. I was going to show you guys what thing. All you need to do is just go and say, Free Aafiya Siddiqui, see how many person they're going to stop you and say, who is she, how can I help? Easy. ما بدهاش شيء يعني. It doesn't need anything. It's on an individual level. A bracelet we have also on an individual level. You know what? We have also a yard sign. You can put, Wallahi, we have several churches reach out to us for these signs. I was surprised. They even opened their on Sunday service, she spoke about Afia. I'm surprised that these churches reaching out to us regarding that. Several yard signs they want in different locations, even in North Carolina. What also, if you, let's say, you know, a couple of donors here and there, it's like, you know what, let's put some billboard, you know, about Afia. You can be creative, brother and sister. I just need you to put yourself, this is you talking about your mom. And she is our sister. She's not like, she is our sister. She is our duty. She is our responsibility. Allah will not ask you about the result, but He will ask you, what have you done? Allah will not ask you if you free Afia or Palestine, but He'll ask, what have you done to free them, brother and sister? Yani, may Allah forgive our shortcomings. Yani, and اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. Oh Allah, show us the haqq as the right, the haqq, and allow us to follow it, and show us the batil, the falsehood, as a falsehood, and allow us to avoid it. Inshallah, so you can do 3 days thing, and our long term, inshallah, to recruit a team for her in here. All you need to do, as I said, you can have a table in your favorite organization or masjid. This is what I did in Dallas. I'm just a volunteer. I saw a table. I learned about Afia, and then I said, how can I help? And this is how we established that group. I would like to have that in here, so you guys can, at least on the day of judgment, you tell your Lord, I tried to do something. Jazakumullah.
Jazakumullah khair. Yeah, we'll do some questions, inshallah ta'ala. We've got a few minutes for questions before Salat al-Isha. So we'll just keep them coming quick and fast. Easy, Louise. Yes, in the back. Anytime terrorism gets mentioned, families get scared. So how do you navigate that?
Legal aspect?
I'm sort of a bad person to ask about this because, you know, at the end of the day, I'm answerable to my creator, but every person has to do a risk calculation. So it's a conversation I have with my husband that's ongoing whenever I take on any of these cases. And, you know, we do a risk calculation in terms of safety to our children, to each other, and I don't have to worry about my job security, but of course I understand that's a factor for somebody. And I guess I'll tell you what I tell a lot of students who talk to me about how they want to stand up for Palestine and feel like they can't right now. Palestine needs you in this country. Palestine will do better if you're not disappeared into a detention system or deported. There's strategic ways, and we're in a long game right now for advocacy for the Ummah in general, right? Whether it be Palestine or for Afia. So do your personal risk assessment. If it's something like you're having a hard time explaining to your parents why you were taking a certain position, that's something that you can approach with knowledge and calm your fears down. But if something like immigration status is at risk, or you're losing your job because of certain type of social media posts or advocacy, maybe you approach your advocacy strategically, and don't say that you stop ever, but that you change course, or that you play the long game and you don't burn out early in stages, because we're going to be doing this in different ways, right? I shared with you a few other cases today. We're fighting this battle on many fronts, and we're fighting, and this battle is different and is only growing, right? The dragnet of surveillance, the dragnet of detention of innocent Muslims is only increasing. So if it's something like resistance from your family, have that conversation. I'll help you with that, or you can tailor it. But if it's something like worrying about your personal security or your long-term, academic and career consequences, that's maybe a conversation where sometimes it is okay to bow out for a little bit and regroup. I don't know. I hope that helps, right?
I just want to add to that. I think it's really important that people consult. So I know I remember what it's like to be fiery and 20 years old, and everything feels urgent, and that everything has to be done right now. And so consulting people, if maybe your parents don't get it, but also maybe consulting lawyers that you trust, consulting activists that you trust, consulting people who are in that space, who are more mature, experienced. They'll also give you advice. Like, for example, sometimes you might not be aware of the ramifications of your immigration status, or certain considerations you might not be aware of, how it might affect your school, how it might affect. And so bouncing ideas off of people, I think, is always helpful if they're people that are experienced and wise.
Right. I do want to say that there is a different level to that. One, you can do things behind the scene. You don't have to be upfront always. It's for you to evaluate your situation on an individual level. Stopping is not an option. I know if you want to go to a coffee shop with your friend, you will be every day nagging your mom. No, trying to convince her, We're not trying to, I will say, I know my mom, she disagrees with some of the stuff I do. I don't have to tell her. I'm an old lady here, but for you, inshallah, as he said, we host in the masajid, part of these know your rights. CARE does that, they do that in the masajid. So that's why it's important to be an active Muslim. This way you know your resources, you know where you're at, and everyone can help. You know how to do videos? We need that to produce content. You are a lawyer, you are a student, and by the way, this is on the individual level. Our responsibility on a business level and donors and all of that to support these students, that they being the one they got arrested, for example, and all of that, to help them find a job, if you have a business to offer them. So I would say this is a whole foundation with the pillars, inshallah. And we need to support them. Then the youth have the energy, the wise one, they have the money, and we support both together, inshallah, come together.
I love that. We have a question over there. Yes, sister.
What do y'all think about doing like a letter writing campaign? Because I've written letters to political prisoners before, and I think that it would be really nice if we could all write some letters of support and love to her. Do you think that would be a good idea? And also, why is everything moving so slow? It's like painfully slow. It just is frustrating.
Afia asked me that just recently. The last question. So Afia likes to get letters, and I take letters into her, and we send letters to her frequently. So if anybody wants to send letters, I will give you my email address, and then to me, and I'll take them in on my next visit, which will be soon. And then with the Clemency campaign, it was fascinating. We had a young volunteer talking about the ways you can get involved. A young volunteer, Clive and I wanted to set up a Clemency writing campaign, and the most amount of letters ever in support of somebody's clemency campaign sent to President Biden were for Afia, right? He still did the wrong thing. This man was hell-bent on doing the wrong thing for everything. But
I think Allah didn't want to give him the honor of it.
Yeah, that he wouldn't be the one to give us Afia's freedom, true. So yes, all of that is something that, is very important, especially the letters that go to Afia. They keep her spirit and her morale up, because like you just asked, why is everything so painfully slow? Afia was very disheartened after we lost Clemency, and I had to be the one to go and tell her about that. and that was very hard. And she's still, I don't want to say she's still recovered. Like, she's not recovered from her faith. Her iman is so strong. Like, she's not meant for this world, and I think at some level she's like made peace with her akhira being where she sees her children and has a life that she deserves and didn't get in this dunya. But also, like, she's still human, right? And she still feels the pain. And so she's frustrated with the speed of things, but that's the legal justice system for you, right? Like, these things, first of all, it's Clive and I working on these documents and collecting this evidence. That takes a lot of time, resources, money, and we're doing it pro bono. And then there's a process that happens once you file, and the timelines that you have to follow for the courts is also very lengthy. So yes, this will be something that you see for a long time. And it's like that with all cases, right? But don't forget about those cases. Because just because it's not in the news cycle doesn't mean that we're not working on it day in, day out. It's like that for all the cases of our detained brothers and sisters who are political prisoners. And when I say political prisoners, I mean the students who've been snatched off the streets. I mean the Holy Land Foundation 5 brothers who've also been serving unjust sentences for helping for the crime of feeding orphans in Gaza, right? If it's not in the news, doesn't mean that it's not still an active case on a court docket somewhere. So please continue to care and follow and ask questions.
So this 20,000-page document that's being created, this is for the judge who's the original sentencer to give her clemency.
Not clemency, compassionate release.
Compassionate release.
Can you fix it, please? I want to show them where they go to the resources. See, it goes to different level. We did a political prisoner writing letters for everybody, especially in Eid. This is something, if we have a team, we can do this activity in here, because I cannot come all the way. It doesn't make sense, right? The goal is to activate you guys, right, regarding that. So we actually, under advocate, you can either email the White House or even email Aafiya. If you go to the next one, there is no next one. Can we go to the first one, min fadlak, please?
And all of this is on your website, right?
Walalik Amr. So there's a QR code. I want you guys, you see this QR code, the small QR code, I don't know why that's small. I want you to scan it over there. There's all the sources over there, which is volunteering, documentary about Afia, even email Afia directly, inshallah, all every there. Just you need their individual effort to learn, as he said, identify the source, inshallah, and then act upon it. But everything is there. We did a political prison writing, we did tables, we did passing flyers, we do rally in the front of FMC Carswell. So we're doing all of this. We can plan all of this after we establish a team, inshallah.
Last question, and then we gotta break for the close. It's at 9:50, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You did move the screen. Yeah, we'll send the QR code in the Telegram group, inshallah.
Any other questions? We can hang around a little while. I don't want to.
Yeah, so let's delay the questions. You can ask them personally, inshallah ta'ala, after the salah. So we end here.